Carmichael will start from the favored position. He'll pick his spot, and all the rest of these riders will head out behind him here. But for Ricky Carmichael, you know, that limited season, that schedule, what's going to happen? Well, the whole sport pretty much revolves around him.
Well, with him saying he's going to do a limited schedule, it puts a lot of pressure on Ivan Tedesco. And Suzuki even told him at some of their functions, including the 250F intro they had this weekend, that they expect him to be the #1 guy for Suzuki, and they expect him to be up there, a potential race winner. So a lot of pressure on Ivan's shoulders for next year.
Glen Helen National underway. James Stewart with a late charge into turn #1. Does he come out with the whole shot? Apparently so. James Stewart on the #7 Kawasaki gets out in front, and he's followed immediately by the #4 Ricky Carmichael. So the two principal contenders in motocross racing today are out front together.
Hopefully we can get a good battle going here at the last round of the year. We had some great races earlier on in the season. James, of course, having a couple bad crashes that slowed his early season charge, but seems like he's a more patient, wiser rider at this point in the year than he was at the start of the season.
Well, it's going to take something like that to pull that razor edge off of how he was riding earlier. There's always that edge of disaster, too, and the disaster did come up and bite him a time or two. So James Stewart out in front. Let's see if he really will be the heir apparent to the Ricky Carmichael crown. The future star, the future champion of Supercross and motocross. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Michael Byrne running in third spot right now. Good run for the #26 Kawasaki.
Byrne's, he's got something to prove. He doesn't have a job lined up as of yet for next year, and a good finish, strong finish here today will definitely keep his name in the back of team mechanics or team managers' minds when they're looking to sign a rider here in the next several weeks.
Stewart and Carmichael both kind of picking their way tenderly through this first lap, and even at that, they've pulled away from the rest of the field. Byrne a distant third position right now, probably 8 or 9 seconds behind Carmichael, who's maybe 3 or 4 seconds behind James Stewart.
And you see that triple step up again. This is into the new section of the track. This is all new from years past. This is a little racetrack that they have local races on in the weekends, and they've added it into the national course this year. And some of the riders like it. You can see there's quite a few rocks in it over here. A lot of the teams are running moose tubes instead of actual tubes in their tires to prevent flats. So it's sort of mixed reviews, but I think for the most part people like it, and they do like the fact that it makes the lap times longer. They're upwards, almost 3 minutes long. It makes the motos go by a lot quicker when your lap times are longer like that.
Stewart and Carmichael. Carmichael and Stewart, we've talked about the two of them all year long, and right now it is James Bubba Stewart leading Ricky on his Makita Suzuki #4. And there's a section of the racetrack there that has developed a lot of ruts here over the course of practice, lights, and now this first motocross moto here.
Yeah, they call that Flounder Freeway there. It's always, they overwater it intentionally and try to make it kind of a ruddy mess, and it works every year. That's exactly what it is.
Stewart going for a tear-off there as he one-hands it over some of the smaller jumps. Ricky Carmichael's right there behind him. No serious competitive move out of Carmichael. Byrne somewhat a more distant in the third position there. We just got a glimpse of his Kawasaki #26.
And you can see they went through a tight section there just before and after the finish line, but the rest of this track, as you see him just pinned there at fourth. Oh, Ricky squirrels it a little bit, but this track is fast. These guys are wide open a majority of this track. In fact, a lot of the teams are having to run larger gas tanks, the big aluminum tanks that hold a little bit more fuel, because these guys are they're running them dry.
Carmichael up around the outside. Yeah, you can see that right wrist cocked full wide open on the throttle most of the way around the Glen Helen Raceway here for our Giant RV National. And Carmichael and Stewart, again, neither one looking very aggressive at this point in their body language or in their style. Carmichael biding his time behind Stewart. Stewart just putting a good lap together and hitting his marks. But the two of these guys are so much better than everybody else. No one else is even in the picture.
Well, it's been that way all year. You know, part of the reason they might be taking it a little bit easy, you see coming down that hill, it's pretty muddy. They put down a lot of water in between motos here and to keep the dust down for fans. But what it does is make it very slippery the first few laps for these guys. This California soil doesn't really absorb the moisture as well as a softer, loamier, sandier soil like we would have back east. So it gets very slick when you put water down. And as you can see, these guys are kind of gingerly coming down those hills. They're not really charging yet.
Riding the front wheel down the hill and the back wheel up. We'll be back in just a moment.
There is a place for one of
aircraft and scooters. Glen Helen Raceway, and a young fan enjoying James Stewart and Ricky Carmichael battling at the front of the field. Well, there hasn't been much of a battle yet. It's more or less follow the leader. Stewart is the leader, and Carmichael's content to follow him around for the time being, at least.
And he has been patient. Normally you see him getting all over James immediately and trying to make a pass by, but so far he's just been content to sit back there just outside of the roost and just kind of watch his lines and follow him around.
Carmichael on the number 4 Makita Suzuki. James Stewart using the number 7 this season on his factory Kawasaki entry. Now Carmichael getting a little bit closer, and the crowd starting to whoop it up a bit. Up the hills and down the dales at Glen Helen Raceway in front of a record crowd here, a big crowd at least. Don't know about a record, but because the course is so much bigger, it's hard to tell. They're all spread out around the hills here.
There goes Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky goes by and swaps ends. Stewart rails around the outside and repays the favor. They're side by side. Listen to the crowd now. Yeah, they're getting the race they came to see and paid for. Yeah, this is some racing here. Stewart maintains the lead after several exchanges of that position. So a little preview of things to come here as Carmichael starting to show some signs of wanting to fight for the win.
You know, James had faster lap times in the second practice. Whoa.
Here comes Ricky again. He goes by and gets the block pass going into a left-hander.
That was a big step up. I don't think I've seen anyone do that so far today.
Well, Carmichael has a way of pulling moves out of his bag of tricks that no one else has ever seen. And now he opens a little bit of a gap on Stewart as they park it here in a tight right-hander. How'd those two guys get in that one little spot there? Just two fellas standing in one little spot on the racetrack, whipping a towel around. That's pretty interesting. Carmichael with the lead over Stewart. Let's see if James has got something to answer back with here.
Well, most of the season here, the last half of it anyway, there hasn't been an answer when Ricky does that. He goes by you and puts a gap on you, and that's the last you see of him.
Well, an old friend of mine used to call it the Slibgatiki, which was an acronym for so long it's been good to know you. S-L-I-B-T-K-Y. Ricky's just done it to James again here. Let's see if it's for good. Still early in the moto, and James is hanging close. Take another look at this exchange. These two guys went after each other pretty hard.
And I don't know if James has been doing this and just missed it this time, but you can see Ricky having to seat bounce that thing, really compress the suspension to get the lift to get up that far. Like I said, I haven't seen anybody do that yet, so that was the first time I've seen it.
Nice move by the man who's the best in the business. Ricky Carmichael still leading James Stewart. Stewart running in second position. Lots of fans and the mechanics at trackside are having a very entertaining race going on here.
I don't know if the track's just starting to come in or Ricky just feels like it's time, but he's definitely looks like he's riding more aggressive. He's picked up the pace, trying to cut the lap times down.
A little bit of dust getting kicked up there on a spot where the water is run out. Yellow flags being waved on the course here. Not sure exactly what that's all about. James Stewart running hard. Where is Ricky Carmichael? No Carmichael. Oh. Stewart is the leader. The yellow flags were because Carmichael has gone down. He's back up again. Oh, but no, he's hurting. That left shoulder is hurting. He's not going to hold on to the handlebars. He's one-handing it around the track. And not because he's winning. Now, look at this. How tough is it to climb this hill with one arm?
Well, you don't do it unless you have to. You can see him shaking that thing off, he must have augured in there with his shoulder, but yeah, he can't even keep it up on the bars. He's definitely got a problem with it.
Oh, yeah, this is not good. Ricky Carmichael, of course, with the Motocross Donations coming up. And a first DNF. Is it possible that Ricky Carmichael will not finish a race for the first time? Wow. Everybody's looking. Everybody's watching to see. There's Kevin Windham. They're not watching K-Dub. They're watching for the number 4.
You can see the Asterisk guys were standing there on the side of the track kind of with their arms up like, you need to pull off. What's going on? And yeah, Ricky's heading in. He's done.
Yep.
And he's got a bad shoulder. His right shoulder, he's had a lot of injuries on that before. But his left shoulder's good, so now.
Not so good right now, though.
Not so good right now.
So he's trying to find his way off the racetrack. Meanwhile, James Stewart has picked up the lead. Probably had to have seen Ricky down on the track.